Welcome to the second part of our lesson on Cisco ACLs. If you have not watched part 1, I encourage you to go through it and I will leave a link below. So on this simple topology we have two PCs hanging off router 1 as PC1 here and PC2, and two servers, server 1 and server 2, hanging off R2. The tasks are: first one, PC1 is not allowed to access server 2. So for this task, we will simply configure a standard access list and apply it on router 2 gigabit 02. Remember, for standard access list, you have to apply the access list as close as possible to the destination. On the second task, PC2 is allowed to ping server 2. So ping is allowed, but trace is not. So for this task, we will be configuring an extended access list. And for the extended access list, it's best to deploy them as close as possible to the source of traffic. So in this case, it would be on router 1 gigabit 02. And then we will take a look at how to edit access lists and look at the logs generated by access list and a few more short commands and then some best practice. So let's get started. So the first thing I would like to do is to check that my pings and basic connectivity is established. So from PC1, I will ping server 1, and then I will also ping server 2. So my task, the first task, is to drop any traffic coming in from PC1 to server 2. So the direction of the traffic is from PC1 to R1 to R2, then outbound on gigabit 02. So on gigabit 02, where I will be applying my access list, it would be on the outbound direction. So hopping into R2. Two ways I can do this: either access list 10 and then deny hosts, and then I'll put in the IP address, or I can use the format IP access list, and then I have to specify that is standard 10, which is the format actually that I prefer because it puts me into the access list configuration mode and I can edit later on the lines or the sequences as I wish. So you don't have to worry about putting a sequence number here. This will be generated automatically. I will simply just put my statement as I want to do it. So denying PC1. And then remember that if you don't add an explicit permit, any other traffic will also be denied. At the end of every access list, there is an implicit deny. So if I was to apply my access list on this port now, traffic from PC2 will also be denied because it would be caught by this implicit deny on this access list. So what I have to do is to permit any, and then I can exit. Let's look at our access list. Show IP access list 10. So I have deny PC1, and then I'm permitting any other type of traffic. Let's apply the access list on gigabit 02. And outbound. So now I shouldn't be able to ping server 2 from PC1. And just to be sure we haven't broken, or our access list has not broken anything, let's try to ping server 2. So PC2 can reach, here we are. So PC2 can reach server 2, but PC1 cannot reach server 2, which is exactly what we wanted. So this is as far as the first task is concerned. Now let's hop into the second task. So here, as we discussed, we will be using an extended access list and we will apply it inbound on gigabit 02 on router 1. And the purpose of it, or the goal, is to deny the trace route but permit the pings. So going into router 1, and I would like to use a named access list. So I would like to deny UDP from host PC2. So that's 172.16.2.10 to 168 server 2. And as a matter of fact, I can just stop here and add the permit IP any, or for argument's sake, I can permit specifically the cml-p just for the purpose of this exercise. And then once again, so the format here is source destination. So this could be subnet, for example. It doesn't have to be a host. And just one more thing that I would not enter in this access list, but I want to share with you. So if I were to try to look at ports, you can see that you got the selection of ports you can use, so you can be more specific than just a protocol. Let me just erase this. Exit, and then apply my access list. And I prefer to always copy and paste it to avoid any typos. And it will be inbound. Show IP access list. Here we are. So we're denying UDP from PC2 to server 2, and we're permitting cml-p, and then we're permitting any other type of traffic. And as I said, this sequence number 20 doesn't have to be there really, because it's taken care of by the third one. So let's go and run some checks here. Let's try to ping server 2, we can, and let's try to trace route to it. So here we can see that the trace is not working. So this task is now done, and then let's try to edit access lists. So for example, I want to add another line to this access list. I can choose the sequence. If I want to insert something in between 10 and 20, for example, there's something else I would like to deny. So I can put my sequence myself manually and permit IP or TCP any equal so we have inserted a new line here without having to write the whole access list again, and this is why I prefer to use the format IP access list instead of access list, because it gives me the option to edit the sequence and add and remove lines. So with regards to logs, this is actually very useful. You see here on this side, you see the number of matches. So this shows how many times this sequence here has denied traffic. And here you can see how many have been permitted. If I were to run my test once more, for example, let's do the ping. So this should be permitted, and it has incremented from 2 to 7. And then let's see if we can increment the 3 if I go and do my trace route. So as you can see, it has also incremented. So this section here, or this part here, is very interesting. What I would like to do is to go in and edit this sequence further. So I'll go to the specific line here. And I simply add the keyword log. And I exit. So this is how my access list looks like now, with the keyword log. If I were to run the trace, I have an entry. I have an entry log that gives me some idea about what's going on. And this is pretty useful for troubleshooting. So I can see that what has been denied is UDP traffic sourced from 210 with a destination 192.168.210. Some of the short commands, we actually seen them all. So here you can see how many hits you're getting on each sequence, whether your access list entry is working or not. Permit IP any, there's no hits. There are no hits because we haven't put any other traffic that is not fitting. So best practice in terms of access list, as I discussed or as mentioned earlier, try to use named access list when you can, because you have the option to describe what is the purpose of this access list, which makes it easier for yourself and for your colleagues afterwards. And when you want to edit an access list, I know I was editing the access list while it was applied to the interface. It is recommended that you actually remove the access list from the interface, make the changes to it, and then reapply it. So I hope you have enjoyed this session and you got something out of it. Any comments or feedback, I would love to hear from you, and thank you for watching.